Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Val, and this is my channel. I didn't even get to make all the videos that I wanted this week. My Shauna vlog is actually going to be delayed until next week, guys. So if anyone's been waiting for that, I'm really sorry. It just wasn't able to happen this week. I'll go into detail as to why, maybe some other time, but let me just get straight into my story for the day. A very crazy story for my day, a very pivotal story, I would say, in my journey of self-transformation. But before I do, just want to make a quick disclaimer. This video is just explaining my experience of something that happened. None of this video is medical advice. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a psychiatric professional. This is not medical advice. This is not psychological advice. This is not any form of advice. I am simply speaking on my experience and also hoping to reduce the harm that may occur with the taking of such substances. Because today I am talking about psychedelics, specifically psilocybin. I want to talk to you about my 6-gram mushroom journey back in 2018, a trip that completely altered my experience of life forever, and also led to some pretty crazy places in my existence. So I just want to, this is perhaps a cautionary tale of abusing these substances, because I see on the internet a lot of people, they just like to sugarcoat these things and say, oh yeah, it's all good. Mushrooms, LSD, all of these psychedelics, they're just amazing plant medicines that will heal you no matter what and all this. But not many people, as I say, are talking about the dangers, because these are incredibly dangerous substances if used improperly. Okay, they're amazing tools for discovering a lot about yourself, because they can give you that third person perspective on your life that you may never have had before. But however, they can also completely ruin you, completely disconnect you from reality, and can actually, in a lot of cases, permanently lead to mental illness in some people if not used correctly. So without further ado, guys, it's my history, just some background story. Before this, I used mushrooms, I used LSD in recreational fashions, just for having fun. But one day I went out camping with some folk, had some LSD, had some intense realizations about myself, but at the same time it wasn't used specifically for that. And then another time, I had mushroom trips on several occasions. I don't want to call them journeys, because they were being used recreationally to go out, scared myself to death in a lot of those instances, and a few other times, again, had some profound realizations, but they weren't being used for that, so they didn't stick like other times that I've gone through them. But later on, I got to a point in my life, this is back in 2018, when I was kind of desperate. I'd been on the path of self-improvement and self-realization for some time. I'd started meditating, I'd started exercising, but I felt like I wasn't moving fast enough. I'd had a few incidents, I think, happen to me in the weeks prior to that just completely took me off guard, and I just dropped into this heavy depression where I felt like there was no way out. I couldn't relate to people, least of all women. I could not relate to women at all. I couldn't understand why I couldn't connect to them, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't connect to people. I couldn't understand why I had no control over my impulses, that I still needed to be watching pornography, that I still needed to be drinking alcohol profusely and smoking weed all the time, and doing the occasional harder drug. Even though I was getting healthier, I was still also, I felt like I wasn't going anywhere. I felt like I'd make a lot of progress and then I'd fall backwards. I'd make progress and I'd fall backwards. And so in this dark state of mind, bear in mind, you're not supposed to engage in these substances, when you are in a dark state of mind, you need to be using it from at least a neutral point of being. You know, I decided I was going to sell my guitar and buy myself 10 grams of mushrooms. Now, okay, I bought 10 grams of mushrooms because that was the special. Okay, I can't remember how many it was, but it was like a few thousand rand to buy like an entire 10 grams of mushrooms. I was then going to give 4 away to some of my friends, and then I would take the remaining 6. You know, Terence McKenna said do 5, and then there was I thinking, okay, it's fine, I'll be good, I'll do 6. And if anyone knows about the Terence McKenna way of doing these things, he used to advocate for doing a 5-gram heroic dose in the dark by yourself. Okay, so I was like, well, I need answers right now, so I'm going to engage in this 5-gram heroic dose. Instead, of course, I make it 6. So I told my friend, look, this is something I have to do on my own, but I would like for you to check in on me throughout the night, make sure that I'm still okay, that everything's above board. And you know, I set everything up in very much a ritualistic manner. I put a mat at the base of my bed with my pillow. I had like a blindfold on, and I decided, you know, this is how I'm going to do it. I ended up deciding, let me lemon take this stuff, which is just insane, guys. Okay, never do this. I don't know if anyone knows what lemon taking is, but basically what you do is you crush up your mushrooms, your dried mushrooms, until they become like a fine powder, and then with you then mix that with like lemon juice, and so the citrus already starts to digest some of the you know, it's obviously acidic, so the enzymes start to digest the psilocybin. It's like basically like pre-digesting the psilocybin, which apparently may cause some of it to turn into psilocin, which is what basically your digestive system does to it. So it like hits much faster. It makes it process in your system much quicker. So instead of your 6-hour trip, you're going to get about a 4-hour trip. So there I did. I had my slush, my mushroom lemon slush, and I was there with my friend, my roommate, and I said, okay, dude, I'm gonna go for this. Drank it, like scooped up the little bits with a spoon, hit it, and then just sort of like lay down there. He left the room, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start this off. You know, and I waited for a little bit, and it wasn't even that long, guys. I just felt this wave of sensation passing from like my toes all the way to my head, and I just felt this pulsating, my heart rate growing quicker, and then all of a sudden, all of a sudden, I just felt like my whole body was on fire. Okay, but it was like this fire of like almost like arousal, like this sexual pleasure flooding my body. Like every nerve ending was on fire, and I remember thinking to myself, wow, this must be what a woman feels like when she has an orgasm. Just incredible waves of just sexual pleasure flowing through my system. And I just remember even just like moaning and twitching, and like there were these involuntary spasms that were coming through. And I had this going on just for a few minutes, when all of a sudden there was just like this like deep sort of like repressive conservative programming in myself that said, how dare you enjoy this, you know. So it literally scared me, absolutely scared me. It sent like chills down my spine, and almost immediately the temperature in the room went from that hot feeling to this like icy cold feeling. Okay, it was just, I cannot even describe it to you guys. It was like literally the whole temperature of the room shifted. Obviously it was just me. As you can see, I'm getting goosebumps just remembering this stuff. And I was there, and I just remember feeling scared, just this fear. flowing through my system. And I start like, I open my eyes and start looking around the room, and I start to just see the shadow moving in the corner of my room, like this cloud of smoke, basically. And in the cloud of smoke, you can almost see these like demonic little eyes and a smile, like almost like a Cheshire cat smile, shining through the darkness. And this thing just like leaps on me, and I just start like losing control of my thoughts. Like my thoughts just start spiraling out of control, just spiraling and spiraling and spiraling, guys. And they just keep moving faster and faster and faster. And I just feel completely out of control. It literally feels like I'm in the middle of a tornado that just keeps getting faster and faster and faster. And it's just, it's like an explosion. Like you can imagine something explodes in the distance, or actually a tidal wave is a better example. Like it had so much weight behind it. It's like that first initial hit is nothing. It's got this whole weight of the ocean behind it, and it just keeps going, bah, and it just keeps getting harder and harder and harder, and the mind just keeps spinning and spinning faster and faster and faster. And the only way I can describe it is that I became scared of literally everything, because I lost knowledge of what everything was. So I would literally look at this chair, and I would be afraid of the chair because I didn't know what a chair was. And you know, I would look at the table, and I'd freak out because I didn't know what the table was. I didn't know what a table was, and I was trying to remember, what is that? What is that? And I couldn't remember it. It was like my whole memory of what I knew had gone. I didn't know anything anymore. It was just this information, the sensory overload. And I just remember being terrified. It was like I'd been injected with the pure essence of fear. You know, and that's what I really got a lot of profound details from this, because it made me think to myself, what the fear, like that fear is fear of the unknown. Real, like fear in general is fear of the unknown. Even the fear of death is technically fear of the unknown, right? Because we don't know what's coming after death. Not really. You know, so I just remember being injected with this pure essence of fear, and I could not get a hold of it. I couldn't calm myself down. There was no calming myself down, because I didn't even know what calming myself down was. I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know what anything around me was anymore. And I just remember in my head just being like, when I could grasp for the small amount of time, I just knew, some part of me knew that I had to go through this. And I would tell myself, it's okay, just relax, just let it happen. But no amount of telling myself would calm my system down. I was just, like, I would literally be spasming and all these kind of things. It was insane. At one point, I also remember my friend knocking on the door and saying, dude, are you okay? I didn't know who he was. I was freaked out. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know what was going on. But there was still this deep, incredible, even in that maelstrom, in that tidal wave of just uncontrollable thoughts, there was a part of me that knew that I had to go through this by myself. So I didn't ask him for any help or anything like that. I just didn't even want to talk to him. I just said, I'm fine, dude. I'm good. Just like leave me. I didn't know who he was, but I knew that I had to go through that. You know, and at one point I was just like, just lie on the floor, just keep lying on the floor. I couldn't lie on the floor anymore. Couldn't lie on the floor anymore. I literally got up off the floor, jumped into bed, put the covers over my head, and I prayed to die. I was like, I cannot handle this mental anguish anymore, guys. Because what I was seeing, essentially, I was seeing myself in like hell. At least by my own description, that's what I would call hell. Because what was going on was thoughts. Okay, all of these visions, because it wasn't just like thoughts, these are like clear, vivid occurrences that were happening to me at the time with my eyes closed. I was like in these different scenes. I was seeing the world in three different perspectives. Okay, as the person that was doing the things that were in the scenes, as a person that was having those things done to them, and as a person who was watching all of it happen. So the worst things you can possibly imagine. I was seeing murder, I was seeing rape, I was seeing torture. It was insane, guys. Absolutely ridiculous things that I was saying, and I was the one doing all of those things. I was the one that it was being done to, and I was the one watching all of it. War, like absolute, like the worst things you can possibly imagine that human beings could perpetuate upon one another. I was in the middle of all of that. Okay, so you can imagine how terrifying this can be. I can't even explain to you guys. There's no time perception. I was there for like hundreds of years. That's all I know in that state. And at one point, and this is going to sound absolutely wild, guys, I'm in bed, I pray to die, and I am literally spasming. I'm having these full-on convulsions at this point, and like literally my whole chest would lift up off the bed, and I swear, only my heels and my head were touching the bed at any one point, and I would just slam into the bed, and I'd lift up again and slam into the bed, lift up and slam, and I was just like writhing all over the place. It was insane. It was like full-on exorcist type convulsions that were occurring to me at that point. And yeah, and I was just like, I could feel myself just disintegrating over some time. I was just like going away. I was going away. And yeah, and eventually I saw in my head, I just saw like the static, like almost the static on the TV, and then the TV going off. And I was just in this darkness. I was experiencing absolutely nothing at that point. I had full on ego death, absolutely no experience of anything. It was like I died. I was completely dead in some sort of purgatory. It was just darkness, pitch black darkness. And then after I don't know how long it was, I literally felt myself drop back into my body. I literally felt that kind of feeling when I sat up, bolt upright in my bed. And my whole room at this point is filled with like these fairy lights, these cobwebs. Okay, just like literally fairy lights that look like cobwebs, like all over the room. Pink lights and these blue lights. And I was just like, whoa. I touched my bed and I was just like, I was crying at that point. I was like, I cannot believe that I'm still alive, that I'm still here. I cannot believe what I've just gone through. I was so happy to be back because, like, for me, it felt like I'd been gone for no less than 400 years. Don't ask me how I know that. Don't ask me, like, I cannot explain it to you. I can't even explain, like, how is it possible that someone can actually experience that as if it's happening to them, all in their head. Okay, that's just how powerful the mind is, guys. Because even physical sensations can become real to you in your head. It's crazy. And yeah, I remember coming back to life and just being like, wow, what the hell was that? And I went outside, and I was in a commune at the time. I went outside to like the braai area, the benches outside, and I remember just taking my laptop out and just writing about what had happened to me that day, and just documenting it, because I went through hell, ladies and guys. I just remember being so happy to just be back, and I remember saying, I'll never need anything again. I was happier than I'd ever been. I said, I'll never need anything again. No alcohol, no weed, no cigarettes, no sex, no pornography, no anything. I'll never need it again. I wrote about my experience that day. And I swear, yeah, I went to bed really, really thinking that would be the case. However, that did not stay the case, and I think let me just end this video here, guys, because the next part of the video is going to be talking to you about the craziness that came afterwards, because that was a really high dose of psychedelic mushrooms, and what comes next is going to be a very cautionary tale of the effects of some of these substances and how dark things can get if they're not used correctly, if things afterwards are not integrated correctly, and the problems that can arise with your mental health afterwards. I am happy to say that in the end it benefited me greatly. But before it ended up benefiting me, things got a lot worse in my life before they got better. Alright guys, so I'm going to end that video here, part 1 of my 6-gram heroic dose story. I will then talk to you about what happened, the after effects of this dose. And then, yeah, hopefully guys, you found this story interesting, and also be careful whatever you're doing out there. It may not always play out like they say on the internet, okay? Just because Terence McKenna said something doesn't mean it's going to be super beneficial to you. You may end up in a permanently damaged state. So just be careful. This was what I'm going to talk about in the next video.